I will turn my volume up. I will turn y'all's volume right about there.
Hello.
There you go. And greetings and salutations, travelers. Welcome back to the end of Planar Crossroads. It's been a little while since we've done one of these around the Hearth, so hopefully you haven't forgot what this is. We are going to be discussing this time, when I put out a video before about my TV head mask that I wear around, I had mentioned putting together a character that you could put in your games that is that kind of character. That is a TV head style character. So we're going to do that this time. That's what we're doing today. We are joined today by Austin from Bomb Squad. He plays Arkiro, the Arkiro. So So, there you go. That's all that needs said. It's just the
Enough said.
That's it.
Then there's Dan, who is the LM from Avenue Studios, and by extension that means Bomb Squad. So there we go.
Indeed. Hello, everyone.
And then we have Jake, who is joining us. He is also a DM, LM, GM, whatever you want to say.
All the above.
There you go. He also runs tabletop games. There we go. So, he's going to be helping us out with his conversion also. So it's good to have him along.
Thank you.
And before we get into anything as far as this, let's do announcements real quick. Always less than 5 minutes. You can time me. Here we go. Tune into Avenue Studios if you want to watch some live plays and actual plays and stuff like that with the characters that we've mentioned before. You can tune into ours for the next episode of Laws of the Multiverse will likely be coming out in the next few weeks. I have finished the script. I've even, by this time, recorded the script. And I will be editing the audio of it and trimming it down and all that type of stuff like that. You can keep track of that on the Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter are where those updates are shared on how far we are along on things. And that's really the only announcements that I have. So, Dan, do you have anything going on at Avenue Studios that you want to announce before we hop into this conversion?
Not at the moment. We will be coming up on our 2-year anniversary in November, so we will have some special things going on then. So stay tuned. Contests and announcements then.
Oh man, that's really weird for me as someone who's been watching you since year one and has been like, oh, isn't this cute? These guys putting together these videos. Like,
Yes.
2 years!
Yeah, I don't know where the time went.
Quality
It's
stuff.
been fun. Yeah, so stay tuned.
Stay tuned for the next episode of Bomb Squad. No, that's
He says it.
Let's dive into the next episode of Bomb Squad.
That's it.
Oh, you say it so much better than me.
You need to get... what you should do, see, is get people to do audio bits that you just slide in every now and then. You got your whole... Eventually, you have accrue this whole soundboard of different sayings, and you're just like... ba-doop, 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 ba-doop.
I love that. One's got to be Arkiro saying, "Don't touch me."
I can make that happen.
Yeah.
And what you do see is you have it queued up, and then you're like, don't touch me.
I love that.
Nice.
Okay, let's dive into this one, guys. So, first thing we're going into is we're going to be making we're going to be using Hero Muster for this character creation, and depending on how well you guys receive it, we may come back to him and upgrade him past level 1 and some in the future. But we're going to start at level 1 so that you can throw him into pretty much any campaign that you find yourselves in where you need to have a TV-headed robot. I'm thinking that he's very much in a similar design to Conti from Furikuri. If people are familiar, I will show the people at home. Conti. But he is a TV-headed robot, or it looks like a TV-headed robot. Technically, he's not a TV-headed robot, but that's beside the point. I will share screen for those that have not seen before. There we go. Allow. And so people can see. That's kind of what the design is, except that this Orion that we're going to be converting has a regular styled TV head, but the concept is still there. Mainly in his blue form, since that's his run around the town form and stuff. So that's kind of the idea that's being gone for. Oh, I might have to get that for the thumbnail.
Cool.
So stop screen.
I like it.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not sure how many of you guys are anime nerds, but for the people at home that weren't. Oh.
I think we have a kaleidoscope of
We have
depth of anime.
an interesting variety of anime loving.
There you go. I was actually watching, as I get this ready for people, Robot Carnival from way back. I think it's like an 80s or 90s movie. It's an anthology of little different short stories that revolve around machinations and stuff like that. That is a anime. So, worth checking out. and recommend it for those that want to have especially some interesting visuals. Very Akira styled art in most of them, but not in all of them. So, it is interesting to see. But there's no real there's only a few stories that have dialogue in it. It's one of those kind of avant-garde ones. Alright. So, that is what we're doing. We're getting Orion Fire Rabbit, or 0R10N. It's just much easier to say Orion. And we're going to put his archetype as TV-headed Wanderer, I guess. TV-headed Star Wanderer, or something like that.
Nice.
And that'll be enough of that for now. So, you guys got some bullet points for the character. For those at home, we're going to put those up on the board. Up on the board. Teaching. Up on the screen. There we go. Select window. Which one is this one? Untitled. Pull out. So, for the backstory and stuff like that, or kind of just some bullet points, he crash landed on Earth in the summer of 1987. This is, of course, an alternate Earth type thing. He was almost completely destroyed going through the atmosphere. The crystal data core, which is as best we could describe it, a crystal portion surrounded by a lot of circuitry, it survived the crash and landed in a dumpster, which ended up going to a landfill. But he was able to piece together a bit of a bipedal body and with an old Orion TV set as the head of it. But that took him a little while because while he did piece that together, it took a while to figure out how to get Earth technology to be compatible with Orion's technology. Orion has become interested in observing Earth's most dominant flora and fauna, namely humans. And originally he thought that bugs were the dominant species. So he had started to make himself... Orion had started to make Orion a body that had the TV head still, but it was like a bug body that just crawled around. But eventually Orion figured that out, was that it was not the case. So then he went to cats and dogs. So he went quadruped, and Orion was like, no, that's not right. Finally realized that humans were the most dominant and dangerous species on the planet. So best to mimic them rather than to go into another creature. As far as some odd little characteristics and quirks, he speaks in the Orion speaks in the third person because he's a robot. He doesn't have a gender or things like that, so he just avoids pronouns altogether. Doesn't speak a lot, and when he does, it's usually based around logic. Sometimes seems to appreciate things like the beauty of things and stuff like that, but he does it more from a non-biological, technology-styled observer portion. Sometimes has a hard time conveying concepts and ideas as Orion's people. He doesn't really call them a species or anything like that, but his people communicate mainly through signals, sometimes through images and flashes, but rarely through sound since they spend a lot of time in space. No atmosphere equals no sound. So no sound in the way we make sound. And this will sometimes affect his interfacing with humans, as images will pass over his screen to try and convey ideas rather than speaking. And Orion doesn't always realize that that's something he does. So, that is that, as far as some basic stuff. Before we dive in, do you guys have anything that you want to kind of put in there or observe or something like that that I can make a note about? Or you just want to dive right on in?
Nothing pops up in my head right away.
Okie dokie.
Yeah, I think.
I like what you have.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So let's dive in then. So Orion, that's the backstory stuff with Orion. Orion has a lot of communicating with humans is a little difficult for him, so that's going to be something that probably plays in to his flaws when we get there. But as far as attributes, he's going. The plan is to have him revolve around a lot around logic. So that's probably going to be the highest score.
Which makes sense.
So we're looking at probably, for a level 1 build, that'd probably be a 5. You guys thinking?
I mean, the only thought I had, and it's one struggle in Open Legend, is the use of logic, not getting boons and banes. So you could potentially, to me, based on his backstory, alteration makes a lot of sense, because he would have Genesis and shape-shifting, and then having logic at like maybe a 4, or doing the old fallback of attribute substitution too.
Attribute substitution tier 2 or attribute substitution 2?
As well, because you could have alteration at 5 and then do at sub 1. I mean, it depends on your GM. Probably flavor-wise, it would be logic into alteration. His logic is what gives him the ability to do alteration. But if you have a nice GM, they might let you go the reverse. Just so you only have to take 1 tier of that.
So,
I don't know, don't make me gospel. That was just my initial thought.
right.
Well, in the same way, logic obviously is going to be his primary programming at this point, but it sounds like, even though it might not be as useful in the same way that logic is, learning would be another potentially high one if his sole purpose is to be able to continue to improve. Just from a fundamental standpoint. I like the idea of the alteration. I like the idea of essentially the way that he communicates. Almost, I was thinking of the prescience aspect of it. Actually being able to use maybe the flashes of the TV screen being a form of like telepathy, or the eventually being able to interface with other computers and the mind dredge aspect of it. I mean, I'm thinking down the road. But Prescience has the ability to be able to use communication. There's speaking. There's the I'm blanking on the other ones, but Prescience has a lot of ability to communicate outside of the normal language.
Yeah.
So being able to use that, but he's got to learn it. He's got to stay in logic. That's where it's the only thing he knows right now. But then maybe the learning aspect, again, maybe not as profound as some other attributes, but maybe in his case, maybe that's just where he starts.
Well, that brings up the idea also that prescience could be something similar to a predictive analysis style in the machine. So running numbers to predict who's going to move where, what's going to happen, and things like that. That would allow for him to have some effects on the battlefield should he get involved in anything like that, or even off the battlefield, predicting future trends and stuff like that. So I think that's a good idea. That fits a lot in with what he would do as well.
And that's kind of my question too, is how is he played? Is he more of a support? Is he he kind of seems support as a base initially, but if he has alteration, he has a lot of banes as well that he can do.
I mean, if you've got alteration, you can do anything.
Basically. And then you throw prescience on top of that. It can be pretty brutal.
Oh,
alteration fits nicely too, because if he was originally doing it bug-like, and then the cat and dog-like, to cover all of that, I think alteration fits really well.
Right.
Okay. So
because then later on he could use alteration for like Chitin covering, representing the bugs.
Flashback.
Okie dokie. So we're looking at logic, prescience, and alteration. All based pretty much around technology. The alteration mainly functioning on himself rather than other things. So, let me see. We're going to look at, probably go with, let me see what, I need to open up the Banes and Boons too, I guess, if we're going to do that.
I mean, I personally love logic builds.
Yeah, I do too.
I wish there was more use for them.
Mustache has been talking about it. He does have one feat that he's made up, the support trance, that I believe or not support trance, what is it? Battlefield Tactician, where you can use logic or learning to help assist someone.
Okay.
It might be in the Open Legend community section or on the Discord, but so there may be more stuff coming down the pipe for logic.
Well, let's future-proof it then and give him the 5 in logic, and then if we need to, we can upgrade that later. We can upgrade that as Orion upgrades. So.
Because I like logic too, because he, the idea of putting himself together out of the garbage.
Right.
It makes sense, because you're jury-rigging from what you can find.
Yeah, totally.
And what's his motivation for that? Is his motivation to assimilate into the community and the culture that he's in terms, or the place just to be like everybody, or is it to protect himself so that he's not found out, so that he doesn't get hurt again? Like what's the motivation aspect of that? And that might play into some other attributes. Whether, again, we're talking about how do you play him? Is he a support character, or is he, eventually down the road, are we going to add protection into this as a form of that's what he desires, is to be able to protect himself, to protect the core that he has. I mean, is that the reason why he started accumulating all his technology to begin with? I mean, maybe that's, obviously part of the storyline that's not told yet.
Yeah. I think that the main idea, what I've got in my head for him is that he's been building Orion had built itself up for probably around, just to be fun, we'll say 1999, just before the turn of the century.
Yeah, Y2K.
That's when everything diverges. So, that's when our two timelines diverge. And Orion tried to build itself up, get ready, get able to do things, and then I guess it would try to take advantage of the burgeoning internet, the internet bubble that was at the time, and things along those lines to make its presence known. It doesn't. It's one of those things where Orion doesn't consider itself part of this world because it knows it didn't come from here. But so much of its programming is damaged from the fall that it doesn't know what its prime directive is. It only understands bits and pieces of its society and what it was before. It understands and remembers things along the lines of, its species doesn't have the idea of... It finds humans amusing would be the word that we would use, because they put so much emphasis on things that robots don't do, and then prescribing those to robots, and all the weird things that the anthropomorphizing of robots and machines, when it recognizes that it is not that. So that's why I said it looks at things differently than things we would see in normal media where, this robot wants to understand what it is to be human. No, Orion doesn't want to understand what it is to be human. He understands what it is to be human, and he understands that it is not human. It is Orion. Orion is a machine, and Orion does X, Y, and Z. And I think there's that artificial level a true artificial intelligence, not what we call artificial intelligence, but a true level of artificial intelligence functioning with the idea that I have my own goals. Orion has Orion's own goals, and Orion will pursue those. And Orion's not particularly afraid of humans because it understands that its technology is quite a bit more advanced than the technology of 1999. So it doesn't get involved in a lot of that minutia that it would consider human problems. It instead likes to pick things to observe at one time or another and follow those things around. So introducing it into a party would be like, this thing decides to follow you around. And you're like, this thing's a robot with a TV on its head. What's it doing over there? And it's just blank TV screens just looking at you. And it would help those things that he decides to help and not help other things he decides not to help. And if he as an artificial intelligence loses interest, it may leave because it's lost interest and it may go somewhere else. So that will let people drift it in and out of games. Or its predictive analysis may see that this is no longer fruitful for the data that it's gathering for itself. So that would be another way for people to introduce that in and out of their games.
That's really interesting that he has damaged prime directives as well, so he's a lost soul in a way, too, from using our type of words. Mm-hmm. I'm just trying to imagine that. It doesn't exactly know its purpose. He's just kind of watching, recording.
Yep. Kind of
studying. Yeah.
Wandering around. It's hard to leave a planet that doesn't have interstellar space travel yet, so...
Yeah.
You gotta wait for the technology to catch up. But he doesn't want... Now, Orion understands that if he interferes too much with the technology, problems will happen. Like, the predictive analysis is saying, don't do that. Too much at one time is bad. It's not a good idea.
Yeah.
So, he does kind of limit it on that. Okay, so we're at 5 logic. We're getting caught up in the story. We're getting caught up in narrative.
That's why we do this, right?
People want a few mechanics to go with the narrative. So, let me see. It's 5, 4, 3, 2, 2, or what is that?
Yeah, you can do. I think it's 5, 4, 3, 2, 2, possibly. There's a million ways to do it.
We're going to go with 4 impressions, and then, we need 5 for self-alteration, don't we? Let me look that up. Veins. Boom. Would be under boons.
And then it comes a question, do you want to spend the feat points on attribute substitution?
That would probably depend. Let me see the details on Shapeshift. Each tier, power level 2.
Yeah, you can always do yourself.
Okay.
It's just how far you can go.
Right.
Yeah, to gain flying movement, you need power level 5.
Mm-hmm.
So, I could see him building. I could see Orion building into that. I'm not sure that it would have it at level 1. So, hold a second for that.
Mm-hmm.
Put that at 3. 2 would be available. New form cannot be different size than the target. Must possess similar physiology. That's all in line. Classifications. This is not exhaustive. Target does not gain alternate forms of movement. So he couldn't go Gurren Lagann with his arms and turn them into drills and then dig down. So that would be. It depends on how anime you want to make him. I'm just throwing that out.
Now, what about perception? Being that he's analyzing so many things,
Right.
that he probably has, many different kind of receptors.
That is true.
I would definitely think, and plus what Austin was saying about learning, I think learning and perception do make a lot of sense.
Maybe not being super high, but definitely something.
Well, I was wondering about, because I always bounce back and forth between attributes and feats, just because it kind of influences it, because there is the well-rounded feat, too.
That is true.
Which I could see fitting for him. So if he had like a 2 in learning, a 2 in perception, that he's got it's lower, but he's got advantage when he's rolling.
Yeah, and that advantage could be representative of him analyzing databases, accessing databases, especially with the internet just burgeoning out, and Orion as a advanced technology would understand the concepts of just getting into Wi-Fi and all those things. So,
I like the well-rounded feat.
That actually,
you don't see that too often, and because I don't know, I feel like people like to push their person in one direction or the other pretty early on, and to see that and to have that, I think it just makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he doesn't, based on how Adam's describing it too, he doesn't feel very aggressive or anything.
Right.
So he doesn't need as much combat heavy.
Right.
Unless, the world might change him a little bit, but we're at level 1, so.
Yeah, it's level 1. The wanderings about might change it.
Yeah.
5. So right now, I'm not showing you guys this. I probably need to show you guys this. Share screen.
I'm kind of building it along with you, too.
Yeah, I was too.
This will help other people too.
Yeah.
There we go. So we've got right now there's a logic of 5 because you want so bad to make a logic build. So logic of 5. If he's rolling with advantage, let me see. Let me look at well-rounded again. Anytime you see it, use an attribute score of 2 or less, make advantage 1 on the roll. Okay.
Now, to go along with the feats, real quick, would he have like a surge protector in him? He could have the energy resistance.
Energy resistance.
Just something to tuck in the back of your head.
We might have to use that for one of the feats when we consider it. He does have that idea of an EMP, so his EMP shielding might be useful in that sense.
Or just something along those lines.
Right. Well, I don't want to jump too fast because I love doing this with you guys. It makes my head spin.
Yeah.
Well, we've got 6 points left.
I mean, eventually we know where this is going, right? He's actually Elon Musk.
So he gets this.
It's that point where he's actually going to have this happen where he can like change his appearance to actually look like humans. And then he's actually created a teleporter and a duplicator, so he's also Bill Gates.
Okay.
Oh,
yeah.
So he's the complete technocracy, huh? He's just all of the all of the technocrats are Orion.
I like it.
That could be the new attribute. We could create a technocrat.
Yeah,
No,
there it is.
boom. Oh man, I think he should have some presence as well because he just stands out.
Right.
It might not always be in a good way.
But then you could also say he could have fortitude because he's not made of flesh.
Right. Although, here's my argument to that. That he's built himself out of a scrapyard.
That's
Maybe
true.
at level 1, as he's able to upgrade himself, he'd be able to put points into fortitude.
Yeah, fair enough.
What about Will? Since he's not necessarily susceptible to other people, and he's just going to do what he wants.
Right.
Well, he technically doesn't have a biological mind to read. And Orion's species is not sure if they know for sure that biologics seem to have something called a spirit. But they are not sure if non-biologics do. So they do have that kind of existential understanding that they are AI, and does that mean that they, like that classical thing, do robots dream of electric sheep type situation? Do they do that? Do they have an eternal thing that goes on past that? It would depend on, like, if you believe Shinto style stuff was happening and going on. So there's lots of, they do have those. They actually, if this is fun, if Orion's memory banks are to be believed, they actually, his species, or whatever you want to call it, they don't have a pure correct name. They actually have huge computers, basically. Huge thinkers. They call them thinkers. That just contemplate those type of things. Huge AIs purely devoted to just contemplating whether that would be viable or not. And they have to keep them from overheating. So they have them on really cold planets. But it doesn't always work. Sometimes there's a little bit of glacial melting with all the heat. So there is that problem to work out. But they don't really care about that because they usually use those planets for it. So I like the idea of Will. I like learning, but I'm not sure if learning or logic is better for him. Investing in both seems a bit much. Of course, he has well-rounded, so he can invest. Orion could actually use the Jack of all trades, the well-rounded stat block, the previous for generating characters instead, and just have a 5 there, and everything else that he wants to have a 2, because he's going to get Orion will have advantage on that, on all of those things when he rolls them,
as long as it's outside of combat.
Yeah, that is true. Outside of combat. So it's probably best to keep alteration and prescience higher. And then all the other little things, too. So we'll say Will does sound good. I believe there's a feat, like, there's like endurance or something that's not. There's
to increase your resolve, or
to improve his resiliency against normal things. Like his body's made out of a junk heap right now, but that doesn't mean that it's necessarily
like it's like the natural defenses or whatever it is.
Extraordinary defense?
No.
yeah, there's a couple that increase, like Indomitable Resolve increases your resolve specifically.
But you're thinking of, I mean, I think it's a perk, isn't it? Disease immunity.
Yeah, he'll probably have to take that one because I don't reckon him being
Or the Jack of all trades.
Yeah. Where's that one? That's
right.
Resilient.
Okay, so we got to put a point in points are in alteration, points are in will. The extraordinary defenses that was mentioned does sound interesting. It gives that +1 to all the defenses. At the max, it's going to give 3.
Right.
So
I guess I picture him being a little bit tougher in a sense, but I also, like Dan said, from a junkyard.
So here would be my offer on that for a feat. I know we're bouncing around a little, but crafting extraordinary items. Craft extraordinary item as a feat, and he makes for himself things that could increase his guard or toughness or resolve.
So go for crafting of items to make himself to upgrade himself
rather than feats.
Right.
I think some of that's going to depend on the setting you're playing in too, though.
Yep, that's fair.
Because I know a lot of LMs, they don't always give time for crafting, or you got to beg for it.
Right. I love crafting characters.
Me too.
I never get to play them.
They're like my favorite. I'm telling you, Fallout Survival. We should do it.
Hey, I've got Fallout Fort Smith. I've got that on my channel, and it's an open legend game. Shameless plug.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, so that does sound interesting. I had toyed with the idea of him making other little drones that he let fly around. I don't really think I want to go the full companion route, though, so the crafting mundane and the crafting extraordinary do sound interesting. Let me see. Craft mundane. Craft items equal to your wealth level. Craft items equal to your wealth level +1. That seems really... The crafting mundane items seems really, really specific to...
Mundane.
Yeah, not just mundane, but also... What do you mean wealth level, if you try to put them in a game that is in a modern setting, maybe... It's going to depend a lot on where the game is and stuff like that. So maybe extraordinary is a better way to go.
Yeah, I haven't... Jake and I were just talking about the reason I haven't seen a lot of use of the craft mundane. Because everyone just wants to go with the extraordinary. That's usually the items you're making.
Yep.
I could see a use for
That's
the
my
craft.
problem, though.
Yeah, I could see a use for the craft mundane for sure. But for the sake of people being able to insert him to insert Orion wherever they want him to be, like maybe someone finds him in a sky in a wrecked starship. Well, what good's your wealth level then? Because you're on a wrecked starship, and how are you going to do that?
Well, depending on level, especially down the road, if alteration gives him access to Genesis, then he has the ability to create a lot of those items anyway.
Right.
And so it might become null and void, and he would just be able to use those items. Essentially, he could create his own items to do the extraordinary craft, and wouldn't need the mundane.
That's true. Because if he can alter himself, that means he could just permanently in quotation marks, alter himself to where he's always formed into this particular defensive formation or something like that. To use a Pokemon analogy, he's Deoxys, and he just shifts back and forth to defense form, attack form, or speed form, or whatever. So, that's tricky. Maximum wealth level equals attribute -2. Maximum wealth level equals 1. Extraordinary items, 2 days per wealth level, 4 days per wealth level. That's pretty fast crafting.
Yeah. I apologize. My wife needs me for a second, so I'm just going to sneak away.
Okay.
You guys keep going.
Jake's already tried that trick.
Wink, wink, hint, hint, nudge, nudge. No. But I will throw out what I'm thinking, and then you guys discuss it, and you can say if I'm crazy or not. I'm saying right now, 2 in fortitude, 1 in learning, 5 in logic, 2 perception, 2 will, 2 presence, 3 in alteration, 3 impressions. It allows him to get a medium armor. And see what you think about that. I'll return shortly, forthwith. Apologies.
I heard a lot of 2s thrown around. So, I remember...
Probably to take advantage of the well, especially.
So, 2...
What was that, Austin?
I was probably to take advantage of the well-rounded. As much as you can. If it's less than 2 or 2 or less, so having the 1s and 2s there would be a benefit to him,
right?
Especially in the early stages, level 1 and level 2. That way you could crank up on the ones that are already above that, like the prescience or alteration of the logic, and keep the other ones down. He automatically has that.
Well, and being a support character, you don't need to worry too much about attacking. So if your logic keeps your team healed and in the game, and your alteration keeps them boosted.
The other thing, to think about ahead of time too is, what kind of HP does he have? Obviously it's going to be pretty low to start, but the ones that you'll want to upgrade obviously would be the ones with fortitude and will and presence. And those eventually will get out of that range of the well-rounded aspect of it.
Yeah. And
if he's going to be a complete the HP will probably be important.
Yeah. Well, right now his max HP is looking at 22. His max base HP is looking at 22. So that means we're with a guard of 10 is what we're looking at before equipment. So we could have there could still be equipment boosting that up.
And feats, if you take that 1 feat that gives +1 to all your guard, toughness, and resolve.
Yeah. That'd make that 11 plus any armor.
With a fortitude of 2, you can wear... Sorry, Austin. You can wear medium armor, I believe, too, which kind of makes sense per character, because you could say you've built that armor.
Yeah. Which does still want you to make it. It still makes you want to put in the idea that he can craft things every time you come back to it,
Well, how much is the cost of the extraordinary crafting? I forgot.
3.
3. So that doesn't leave you enough.
Yeah, because you're already at 2 with well-rounded, which does make sense for this.
Yep, person. Which I think is important for this character.
So that means we're looking at, we're looking at craft extraordinary and craft mundane are going to be those might have to be later investments.
Yeah, which makes sense.
Just coming straight off of his thing. straight off of his crash.
Right now, you're worried about surviving and building yourself up, where later you'll be trying to strive and craft those extraordinary items.
Yeah, because
he's got that one extra little attribute as well. Is there any place that you would think to put that, whether it's in learning or maybe in the energy aspect? And Jake, you had mentioned that earlier. I don't know, just thinking.
Well, he doesn't really have anything offensive movement just yet, does he? Maybe. I mean, if it's offensive, it'd be like agility or might. But I'd probably put him in agility more than anything else. Maybe if he has the ability to teleport later, we want to put him in movement. I think you can use, if you're looking for flight, if he invests directly into shapeshift instead of, if he invests into alteration for altering himself, then he won't even have to worry about investing into movement for flight and things along those lines. Truth. So that'll save feat points for this particular character. And it's only two score off of being able to do that. And he doesn't I don't know that he needs a jetpack right off the bat. So we may let him get that flight through alteration rather than movement. Though movement does offer a lot of interesting benefits to characters that would want to fly and have access to doing haste and stuff like that with it. So. But we do have that one feat point, that one attribute point. We already got that in presence. Alteration is at a 3. Prescience is at a 3. We can pop it into either... We could probably... The most beneficial place to put it would probably be in agility, to keep from having that low guard so early in the game for people. So that's probably where we need to put it.
Why would you choose agility over might? Just curious.
Agility could offer access to a few more. Could be built into, if necessary, to offer into other feats and things, I would think. Both agility and might affect your guard, but neither one affect any of the other defenses, so it would be... I see a lot of use for both agility and might. I don't necessarily... I don't want to be too influenced by the Conti from the anime. But Conti moves around real fast.
Okay.
But also has a lot of might. So.
And it kind of fits your agility for initiative, because being of the prescience, you'll see things coming quicker. So it kind of fits to put it in agility. It's true.
Fair enough. Yeah. Okay. So that's kind of a start there. Now we're down. We can probably knock out the perks real quick. So we already know he's disease immunity because it's a machine.
Would you want to put him as ageless as well, or jack of all trades?
Let me look at that. Perks and flaws. And ageless, artisan, attractive, brute. Jack of all trades. Once per game session, provided you are not under pressure from an inordinately tight deadline, you can automatically succeed at a non-attack action roll that relates to some craft, trade, skill, or similar work, provided its challenge rating is less than or equal to 14. I guess he could be quite the little crafter. Ageless is a lot more of a role-play one. And, I mean, machines do wear out.
There's also the observant perk. love that one.
Yeah.
Never noticed.
No, I'm gonna use observance. I'm just gonna
Every session.
every session.
Well, I mean, if you can, may as well. It's tough because it definitely is disease resistant.
I mean, you could even go with scavenger.
Ooh, I like scavenger might be a good one.
Okay. For example, you might use this perk to acquire a rope in the middle of
He'll
it.
just pull things into himself. At least what he's been doing the whole time.
It just fits him.
If they need something, he just takes a piece off of the Orion. Just takes a piece off of Orion and gives it to him. There you go. I gotcha. Okay. I don't see a lot of scavenger, so let's do scavenger just because that's very in keeping with the backstory.
It's kind of unique too.
Yeah. You don't see a lot of scavenger. I don't see a lot of people use scavenger. Now, absent-minded, addiction, ambitious. He's not very ambitious. Not brash. Not really bloodlusty. Though that absent-minded does sound interesting. Cowardly, dim-witted, disabled, greedy, honest, hot-tempered, illiterate.
Literal-minded.
Yeah. I've played a little literal-minded one before, and this is just a me thing, but if I end up taking that, I end up doing very silly stuff with it. Like, I was playing a game with Levi and Kane, and I was basically Yes Man from Fallout New Vegas, but in a different kind of setting. He was basically a Centron security bot, and he was rolling around on this planet with this techno-druid wizard dude, and he got them in so much trouble. It was just the two of us playing. We go into a bank. Need to get some money out. So the druid says, okay, we need to get some money out. And they're like, oh, well, what do you need for your money? And stuff like that. And I said, the key phrase for what this Yes Man character was, would you like my assistance, or do you want me to help you with that? And if you ever said yes, he would take the most direct, absolute way to get it done. So what does he do? He puts his guns up towards the cashier and says, give us the money. And immediately the cops come. So what does the druid say to do? Get back to the ship! Are you sure you want me to get back to the ship? Yes, get back to the ship! He leaves the druid. And just goes straight on back to the ship without the druid. The druid's having to run from the cops on the hover bikes and all this type of stuff. And then when he gets there, he's got brownies ready. Because for some reason he has to have a microwave inside of his body. Or, not a microwave, but, a food synthesizer inside of his body. So, anyway. I'm not sure. I'm going to come back to that. But that's
what about a pacifist?
Possibly. Because he doesn't want to get involved in the humans' fights and problems. So that's very possible.
Socially awkward is definitely possible too.
Would you put him as disabled because he can't remember where he's from? He understands he's an AI, but maybe disabled in terms of his history or his background, or there's the not knowing where he's coming from, the amnesia aspect of it.
I think we definitely want to go with I think the socially awkward one is definitely for sure. Because Orion is not socially awkward in that he can't understand the way that humans behave. It's that he doesn't care to understand and fit in with the social norms because he's not a biologic. It doesn't care. It doesn't care. So I think that's good. I think instead to go with what you were talking about with his brain, with his memory, we might go with absent-minded instead. Since, let me see. Nope. Because the character is... That's not the right thing. Where'd it go? I already closed it. Anyway, because the character is not always paying attention to what everybody else is paying attention to. Like, he may be following this particular group of people because he's observing the way that they move and walk, rather than anything specific about the mission that they're on. They must do this or save that or get this file, or that's not what he's paying attention to. So,
well, that feeds into a socially awkward very well too. It's like they go hand in hand.
Yeah. Okay, I think those fit good. I like the scavenger, the disease immunity. Back around to feats now. Let's see.
Feats are always hard. I feel like you can make so many fit.
We've got 4 feat points left.
We talked about the craft extraordinary item.
Mm-hmm. We've been talking about that one. That requires 3 feat points, so then we would only have 1 left. Let's see. Battlefield, breakfall, brutal intimidation, climbing. Companion, combat momentum, craft.
The natural defense. That's what we're talking about, right?
Natural defense down there. Let me see. Natural defense. +1 to guard and toughness. +2, +3. So those required fortitude 1 and 2. Those would be available. I think between the two, you have extraordinary defenses and a natural defense. I think to kind of represent the shielding portion, it would be more accurate to go with, well, it says exoskeleton right there and stuff. It's tough. You can get the same benefits for all 3.
Yeah, because it kind of calls out to that. Yeah.
You can get the same benefits for all 3 of the defenses with extraordinary defenses. Or you can get it specifically to those.
But it's 3 points.
That's true. And that's only 2. Which means we still have 2 more points. So, this one may be what we go with. Let's do natural defenses. LN.
I mean, because technically you could be hacked.
Yeah. That had to be some pretty powerful hacking. But yeah. And that was a boost. Okay. Added it to toughness. We didn't add it to guard. Let me see what this says. Guard and toughness +1.
It looks like it put it in armor, because you didn't put any armor in there yet, right?
Oh, you're right. I see it now.
Actually, I half wonder if maybe that's an error.
Probably. The score is still the same. But probably. That's supposed to... That's
because you didn't put any armor on, correct?
No. There's no armor on yet. So, that's probably a coding error.
Right.
Mustache, if you're watching.
Did well-rounded affect it at all?
No.
No, I don't think so.
No.
Well-rounded.
That I believe it went up. The armor went up 1 when he added natural defense. So I think he said, I think it's a coding error. I think it's just plugging the point in the wrong spot.
Yeah. Okay, Mustache. If you're
I mean,
watching,
you could always unequip
go.
natural.
Dan, are you back with us?
Or if you're not mustache and you're watching, quick, use natural defense because it gives you extra stuff and you're not supposed to have it.
And you can tell your GM, but look, it's on the thing.
Well, look.
Machines.
Why do I have natural defense? Tier 3 on all of my things. I'm impervious to harm.
I don't know.
That came back at the perfect time.
We decided it wasn't a TV, it's a radio, and it has 22 legs.
22?
Wow. Nice.
22.
I'm
Well,
surprised you made it an even number, actually.
Yeah, I thought we had agreed to 21 legs, but then they were like, no, it's got to be...
Well,
There it is.
A horn every once in a while. Then you play an extra. So, never get the horn.
I love it. You know what? We can do that in Open Legend. We can make that happen.
Oh.
All right.
Uncoordinated flaw.
He only wears pants.
Oh, well, naturally.
He's
It's an
a
attractive perk.
modest radio 22 and 1 robot. Like,
We'll
thing.
see. If he does
Change his name
eventually...
to Bob.
The funny thing is, if he does eventually go into making a companion at some point, the fun thing could be, you got TV head, then you need radio head, and all of that type of thing. All your appliances.
I mean, technically you have enough feat points to grab Companion 1 right now.
That's true.
Oh.
Okay, yep. I'm just catching up. So you guys going with some agility. Makes sense.
We went with...
Or you
this
could do Craft Mundane Item.
right here. This is
Mm-hmm.
what we're looking at. Perks with disease immunity, scavenger, socially awkward and absent-minded. We almost went with ageless, but scavenger just screamed for the character. So, for those watching, there is that.
I was thinking that.
For those watching, there is that idea of narrative versus mechanical, and like a machine is not impervious to damage or wear and tear, so there is that. But he would live longer than human. He'd function longer than a human, most likely, because he can more easily upgrade itself.
But he wouldn't necessarily have to be ageless.
Indeed.
Right. And on a mechanical level, scavenger's nice to have.
Yeah.
Fits flavor-wise.
Oh, you forgot your what would he do? Like, would you? Oh, you forgot your USB drive. Well, here you go. No, I'm not sure that's quite useful. I'm not sure that's
Where
really
did that
needed.
come from?
Yeah, I was going to say he has alteration, so he has absorb object.
There you go.
Hmm? Oh, that means... Oh my goodness, you know what that means? He could literally, just like Conti, I don't know if you guys... Again, I don't know if you guys have seen it, but Conti has this portion of his body that will expand out and absorb in the main kid character, and then he would transform into the red version and do the battle and stuff. So that he could do that. He could
That's
literally
perfect.
wrap his wires around you and pull you into himself and force you. Oh, that gets creepy.
That would be your companion then.
No, no, we're not doing that. We don't need.
That sounds like he's got a Megazord.
We don't need an annoying kid companion. Those automatically hit it. Have you ever watched a Godzilla anime or a Godzilla show? It's always the kids. The annoying kid. I say this as someone with 2 kids, so it's okay.
We have a large swath of kids between the 4 of us.
SWAT.
Swat.
Like plague of children.
Yeah, a little bit.
Troop, swarm, hive,
Quiver, right?
Yep, there you go. Yes.
Yep.
infestation.
Probably
Sometimes.
All right. So we still have 2 feat points left. We've got well-rounded and natural defense to represent that resiliency. Now he's more of a support character. I'm not sure if... Let me see. I'm unclear on what boons we have right now. We've got alteration, prescience. Prescience if memory serves, there were some pretty good boons. Boons. There we go. Non-life drain. Precognition. There it is. Power level 1, 2, 3 is where we are. Target is question. Course of action. GM. Favorable. Unfavorable.
Could he just have swimming?
I'm not sure
That's Austin's thing.
Swimming and like climbing or something.
Every character.
Exactly. How come nobody can swim?
Well, to be fair,
Everybody can swim, just doggy paddle.
To be fair,
Everyone has a
everybody
flow
can,
because there's doggy paddle.
yeah. Okay, precognition. Regeneration. That sounds interesting. What did that mean? Alteration. I kind of like that.
That allows you to heal constantly.
Yeah, and he can invoke that boon.
Do you have your filter on?
Me?
Me?
No, the filter for boons.
Oh,
I'm
gotcha.
not sure.
It doesn't look like it.
Preferred boons. It doesn't look like it. Is there a button? View
Oh, that
available.
doesn't filter. Just if you do the view available.
It should
yeah.
filter. Yeah, there it is.
There.
That makes more sense.
Okay, so bolster, detection. That's interesting. One major action.
Yeah.
Holy, unholy, life, death, magic.
It tends to be more of an out-of-combat thing as far as I've seen.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would assume precognition is the same way. So, we're at tier 3 of that. We have access to resistance.
Well, remember, this is also like level 1, right? I mean, so these feats can essentially change.
Yep.
In certain aspects of his programming, or his ability to learn and evolve, grow. So I mean, even thinking of fundamental things at the moment, whether it's energy resistance, or maybe it is craft mundane, or
There's knowledge.
knowledge. Yeah,
Oh, yeah, I forgot about
we didn't
that.
put. There's not learning there. That's a good one.
But while heightened invocation could be interesting for him too.
That is one that
But knowledge
fills
definitely makes sense.
a lot of...
Untrackable.
Heightened invocation fills a
Ingrid
lot
has
that.
of
Strike.
things. Yeah. That might actually be worth taking eventually.
It could
as
be
he specs.
flavored into his crafting.
That might actually be something to look at next time we upgrade him, because of being able to shapeshift boon back and forth to different, like shifting the machinery around on his arm like a transformer to accomplish different things. So that would be something to look into later, I think. Because you got to be tier 3 to even get a bestow boon or bestow bane and stuff. So we'll look at that.
Right.
Since he's mainly a utility / support character, I'm leaning towards the knowledge. Where'd that go?
It's a little more in the learning side, but definitely could work.
Well, he gets advantage on learning because of the well-rounded.
Yep.
So even
Right.
when he does roll this,
And with the knowledge,
What about like the multi-target boon specialist?
right.
Along like that, since it's support, or do we want to say that for something else?
But the only thought I have on that is it's usually best to try and gain advantages before starting to cut back on disadvantages,
Truth.
if you can. It's not a fast rule. It's just
yeah,
A slow one.
Well, it goes into those things of by gaining advantages, you are decreasing your disadvantages.
You are essentially decreasing.
Right. But you are also, if you're not at disadvantage, you have advantages, so it's a little more helpful to gain advantages. And then once you've maxed that or gotten decently high, then you start reducing your disadvantages.
This knowledge one actually sounds interesting because it could apply to him crafting things as well, and not necessarily having to invest heavily into a feat that they're
learning
unfamiliar with. Yeah, because there's no prerequisites. So, what would we say? You got to specify a knowledge group. So, knowledge technology, I guess, would be something. Where is it? Computers, explosive engineering.
Yeah, that's a good question.
I kind of like it just again because of the initial phase. Like this is level 1, this is the beginning, and he doesn't have learning, but maybe this is the supplement to that.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't have any learning, especially in the beginning. Again, maybe this changes later on, but if he is picking up things, if he is learning, especially the internet is coming into its heyday, and he's able to access that and grow from there.
It is true. The internet is just
I like
burgeoning.
that too.
So yeah, I like that. I agree. Knowledge is what we'll go with.
And again, not something that is used very often, I would imagine.
What is your specialization? We'll just, for those out there, we are just putting technology.
We're going to try to put technology.
Yeah. If I can type.
Is it usually used, the specialization, is that typically like an attribute?
No, it's like a field of knowledge. Like
Field of knowledge? Okay, just generally.
Yeah.
It's just to put restrictions on it, so it's
So
not.
you can't just be like, oh, knowledge everything.
Yeah.
You're not a bard.
Well, I mean,
From
we're gonna,
5e, okay? You're not a bard
technology.
from 5.
Technology by definition is like, I have the stick, and it's a tool, and it's my technology.
Hey, don't burst the bubble. Shh, shh. You're GM. Don't tell the GM.
But it's not wired, somehow it's technology.
Just make sure to ask your GM when he's really stressed or. Yeah, sure, whatever. Oh, fine.
Yeah, just take it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, if you have wings, you can swim, sure.
All right. So we've got we may change that specialization at some point, but technology, that feat points are spent. Actions,
Cool.
Weapons and armor. Let's touch on the weapons and armor. Well, let's fill in those boons bangs. We don't need to be absorbing objects. Okay?
Claymore.
No.
Definitely Claymore.
Makes sense.
He takes this guy who is just about observing stuff just carries around a big huge claymore.
He was in a junkyard. He doesn't actually know he has it.
He doesn't know he has it. Right.
He's just carrying around a big piece of metal.
I just envision like his screen. It's like Bumblebee from Transformers, where he just uses voices from movies and
I
like,
love that.
Yeah.
And he just gets the one from like Crocodile Dundee that comes out. He's like, "That's not a knife. That's a knife."
Oh, that's the presence that Dan was all hyped about.
That's it.
That's
Yes.
not a knife. This was a knife.
But realistically, if we want to talk weapons, I was picturing possibly like a multi-tool.
Mm.
He carries around a big multi-tool he made. That makes perfect sense.
Egg beater.
It has every function he could fit into it. It has it.
That's kind of what I
sounds
was thinking.
amazing.
Yeah, I like that.
Fine.
Sorry.
I mean, he could still have the claymore.
Multi-tool.
Well, see, it could be a huge multi-tool. Like, the multi-tool could be as big as him. And he just carries it around like a backpack.
I like that.
Because,
Cool.
anime characters have to carry around big, huge stuff on their back. So
Right.
Absolutely. Huge.
He's walking around, and he's just having to deal with a bunch of these humans, and then all of a sudden, those humans are in trouble. This is problematic for my observations. So he just gets it off his back, messes with it for a second, hits a button, and this big, huge pocket knife flips up. And
That's exactly what I was thinking.
He just takes it with both hands and just starts swinging it around.
Where you get, like, the backpack opens up and there's like that, like accordion hand that comes out. Like Ryan and your brother's favorite thing to do is like the hand from like
Yes.
scooping them along. They're in my way.
I love this so much too because he has absorbed object, right? So just all the time he's walking around and he just puts another absorbed object hole on it. It's like, oh, that's a cool tool. I'm going to shove that in my giant Swiss Army knife.
Yeah.
There's got to be a ton of duct tape in there.
It's part of his social awkward programming, right?
Yes. His socially awkward programming is whenever anybody has a problem, he asks, "Is it supposed to move?" No, and he hands them duct tape. Is it supposed to move? Yes. He hands them WD-40.
Yeah. So the dumpster he fell in was near a garage?
Yeah.
Right.
Something like that.
Hardware store.
Yep.
Yeah. Or actually, with the Claymore still in the back of my head, I'm picturing the like cliche TV episode where it's like the ex-vet from Vietnam or something. He's just got all this junk in there and he lives there.
Yeah. I could see this being a really fun joke weapon, but then as things get more serious in the campaign, everybody thinks he's a big joke. And then by the time people have leveled up and stuff, he hasn't been very combative. Orion's just been back in the background telling him things and looking stuff up for him. But then when things get really hot, you see him, oh goodness, I suppose it is time to get serious. And then he sets down the big, huge multi-tool, and it sets up by itself, and he backs into it, and all of a sudden, it just expands out and envelops him, and he gets twice as tall as he was, and he just turns into this Cuisinart blender of death on the battlefield.
Cuisinart blender of death.
Knocks you unconscious and wraps you in duct tape.
That's right.
Stay.
You are not supposed to move. Invokes the immobile Bane with a whole bunch of duct tape wrapped around him.
I love a good tagline.
I see the camera angles as like he's transforming and it turns into like this massive thing, and then the camera actually pans out and he's still only a blender about a foot high. It's a ninja, right? He got smaller, I think. Oh,
you guys said Fortitude 2 for medium armor. So
yeah, there might be a restriction on wealth level. Might be the only problem.
And well, you clicked on the wrong one. It's the medium below it. There's two mediums. They go medium 2 F2 or D2 F2. Yeah.
Okay.
Is that okay? That's okay.
That one should be good. I already tested it.
That's a little bit more respectable.
But the problem is it didn't give you the natural defense score. It overrode, so your guard should be 14 also.
There we go. Manually editing the character sheet? What is this?
I didn't do that. My world has changed.
That's how Ryan and David get half numbers.
Attribute points.
All right.
There's something about it being who he is in level 1 that he's got all 14 for his defense, just straight I don't know. I really
Keeps
like
it-
something about that.
He keeps them all.
It kind of fits
equal.
what he is, though.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bum. So we are over time. Is there anything else we need to add before we get going with this? Because we gotta get. Let me see. We gotta. That barrier might come and be fun later. Okay. Anything specific we want to add in here before we tell the people good
Is this
night?
being shared with people?
The idea is to be able to share the link with people. So that is the truth. That is accurate.
Maybe the bullet points and the additional notes so that they could have it.
Okay.
Oh, that's a good idea, yeah.
We will slide those in there real quick. Oops. Control V. Control C.
My wife's favorite thing to do is to take the actions and rename them so that they, like, it's not teleport, it's think really hard and move fast. Like,
Yes.
but it's far more clever than that.
That was pretty clever.
Oh, they work.
Alright. Oh, what's that?
Uh
It's done something
Broken.
crazy.
oh.
Quick, while he's not looking, change the attribute points.
Okay.
How is he level 1 with 154? Oh well, that's good.
It's good. It's fine. This is fine. This is fine.
It's fine.
Okay. Alright, so we'll try to fill in some actions and stuff like that before we share this with everybody. And
Cool.
kind of give an idea of what we're going for. And as always, everybody, we hope you enjoyed. We hope you had a good time. Get this. I'll stop screen sharing now for a second. And we hope you had an alright time. Enjoyed our conversation about making Orion Fire Rabbit or 0R10N.F1R3R4881T. And for those curious, that name actually does mean something because based upon what he understands, it's the serial code. You have your own origin. You have your designation of what your maker made you. So that's what the Orion portion is, and then the dot, and then the stuff after that is the location in which you were made, the galactic location number of where you were made. But he doesn't know what those maps mean, so what those numbers mean as far as where that is. But for those interested,
Awesome.
Nice.
I think that's everything, everyone. We hope you had a
I
great
like it.
time. And
Nice.
as always, have a great day. God bless and enjoy. Bye.
Bye.
This content was made possible by travelers and viewers like you. Thank you.